I looked at Capricor last night for a few hours on my Discord, in case anybody missed that, which everyone did miss that. It was interesting. I don't think the drug works or anything, but it's hard to figure out what the FDA is going to do. I would imagine they're going to say they're going to reject it, but I actually have to figure out when are they going to have a decision. I've been lazy with biotech. I got to give you guys some big gains. Oh, there's an article on Humacyte. Was it positive or negative? It's down 9%. I don't have a position in 𝗖𝗵𝗿. Okay, so they have PDUFA in August, so we're not going to know for a while. Very negative. How nice. I love it. I love it. Deny, deny, deny. Okay, so this is, really interesting.
FDA approved lab-grown blood vessel despite warnings.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we thought. And it actually gives you good color for Capricor because it sort of tells you that, look, the FDA, one, they make mistakes. Two, they're human. So you can't always, keep the FDA. You can't always, trust the FDA to do the right thing. This wouldn't be the first time that they've not done the right thing. And Capricor, you have the DMD lobby. That's pretty big. And look, these are families that want their kids to have any shot they can get at a new drug. So I don't blame them. And they're going to try to sway the FDA all they can. Humacyte is weird because, first of all, it's a medical device. It's not a drug. But it was reviewed by the drug people at FDA, which should be harder, right? Nobody's going to use the Humacyte device. So that's kind of the real important thing here. So Humacyte's going to 0, but it's just a matter of when. And, as they report commercial results, it'll be clear that they can't succeed. 𝗏𝗏's doing well. My little biotech engine that could. I might want to update these recommendations. I haven't updated them in months. Do you guys care if we do an audit of all my recommendations? It's going to be pretty painful. Okay, so the way I do that is I go watch the old videos. Okay, so here's 324, 7 hours, but I can just speed through it pretty quickly. Okay, so 𝗬𝗏 324.24, long. Okay, so I'm just going to put I don't know what price to put, to be honest, but I guess I can look at the stream and see what time it was. Hope to see what time it was. Okay, call it the open price then. What's the conviction on 𝗬𝗏? I would say 3, maybe 4. I can help him get that drug, Michael. If he, I know a lot of people. I can make some calls if you want to put me in contact. Yeah, I can definitely get that drug to him, Michael. Martin, the good guy. I don't like to show Martin the good guy off. Don't tell him I did this. It's going to ruin my street reputation. No, I mean, it's nothing special. I just happen to know the management team, so I can get a pretty direct... Yeah, I've done this a million times, Maddie. Bloomberg reported on it once, and then they stopped once they realized they hated me. Yeah, it's very hard to make large amounts of GLP. You need a multi-billion-dollar facility, and even then they have capacity problems, so... There's not much biological manufacturing capacity, actually, in India. There's a lot of chemical manufacturing capacity, but biologics Indians don't do biologics very well. It's a very different process. You should sue Matt Nachtrab for making you believe in cassava. What a guy, man. I saw his tweets today. India's a huge growth market, but for what? Did you guys see Nachtrab's? I love that the guy put $70 million in the stock and he can't get more than two or three people to respond. The drug had better results than the placebo in this case. I don't think they should necessarily test in humans because what you need to do with the animals is you do histopathology. So you need to euthanize and dissect. So it's not like it's as simple as just give it and see what happens. That's not enough. You need to actually go above and beyond that a bit. If my son has to come out as a baggie, disgrace our whole family. See, I know what my dad would do. I promised myself when I had kids, when that day would come, 30, 40 years from then, when I was born, when I was a small boy, I said, I'm never going to do physical punishment. But if my son comes home, shows me a portfolio, or I find it in his bag, hiding it in his hiding spot, and I find it in a bag and under the couch or in his pillow. Pick it up. And I read it, and it's Rigetti, IonQ, Rocket Lab, QUBT, QBTS, Fartcoin, Oklo, the whole bag 7, SMCI, Plug. You own Plug? Cassava, all the H.C. Wainwright stocks? Strategy? And DraftKings on his phone? That's the final Robinhood account? I go to mom and say, Mom, baby, I got some bad news. He's a baggie. He's a bag holder. I mean, all investors start off as bag holders. Like, you're not your first year investing, like, it's hard to be pretty prudent, right? Oh, I'm gonna have that talk when like he's 3 or 4 or 5. Like, investing is tricky. You can open multiple browsers. There's also pop-outs and different, on the bottom you can select different panes. So you could have like monitor 2 open on one browser and then main open on another. So you could just hit plus and make your own. Have way more things coming, desktop, mobile. What I really am looking forward to is it'll take 2 seconds to develop, but my guys are so busy doing better things, is adjusting your focus. So like in the settings, you should be able to pick your own color, your own flash animation, rounded corners, font size, padding, number formats. Some stock you don't even want any decimals, right? Like just really excellent graphics, right? Full MySpace. Yeah. Background GIF would be funny too, Philip. That's definitely coming, one too. The issue is that when you give tokens to somebody at a low price and you're like, here's some tokens, this is worth $5 right now. Like, it's not worth anything. And then the price goes up, and like, it's worth $50. Who cares? Then it's worth $500. Then it's worth $5,000. Then it's worth $50,000. They're like, hold on a second. I'm broke. I need this $50,000. And the funniest part is the dude who did it is like LARPing as like a crypto influencer. And he liquidated our token to pay for a margin call he had on something else he had problem to. The other guy is really hilarious. I thought he was like a sophisticated crypto guy. Same story. He said he got hacked, all his apes. He lost all his apes. So like he had to make it back. And this was the way he made it back. And then one other friend confronted him and said, what are you doing? Martin just gave this to you as a gift and you're already dumping it, causing the price to go down. And he goes, well, whenever I get interested in a token, I trade it back and forth. Only back and forth is how much was he selling it? He did not check with me. Nope. Yeah, there's lockups. There's all kinds of things. But the point is, the Discord is should be discord.gg/Martin Shkreli, and we'll pass that link around quite often. It's not hard to find. It's on my X account. But yeah, so I've had bad luck with crypto. Yeah, just because Peter Thiel's in a stock doesn't mean it's a good stock. I mean, it's mostly ERC20 tokens, the one we created, the Shkreli coin that somebody created and I kind of adopted for the lulz. Did not work out. I'm still slowly building it back. I buy it every now and then. I've put a lot of money into it. I'm slowly depleting all the supply. It's going to moon someday. But yeah, I mean, someday crypto, I think, Godel can do crypto. We have to up our game a little bit, quite a bit actually. But Bloomberg and the other similar products out there like FactSet, they don't really do crypto at all. So I think, we can kind of do better there. BitFuFu, that's a great name for a company. What's the ticker? Fufu? Yeah, just on GP, you got to buy that, right? This one keeps showing up. Maybe this is it's making new highs. Enerpac Tool Group, Sandstorm Gold, International Paper, there you go. Eldorado Gold, QVC, another Spanish company, Turkcell, Diginex. This is that fake company. It's not shortable, is it? Yeah, 20,000 shares only. This one and RGC, right, are the fake Chinese stocks. They're not real companies. There really isn't such thing as little autistic. You could be a little OCD. You could be a little antisocial, but autism is a weird Kind of a weird thing. There's no treatment, unfortunately. I tried to make one of the first treatments ever for autism. Autism is a spectrum of severity and a spectrum of symptoms, but it's not, every disease has a spectrum of severity. You can have mild asthma, you can have moderate asthma, or you can have severe asthma. You guys need paint. You ready for paint? You ready for another paint day? We gotta clip this, and we gotta put on TikTok and Instagram and stuff, because this is important. All right, let's talk about autism. Your favorite subject. You love calling people autists, don't you? Okay. Here's the reality. None of you guys are autistic. None of your friends are autistic. When you use that word, you're making a big mistake, because autism is a specific thing. Now, we use the term ASD sometimes. That's autism spectrum disorder. And this word spectrum is a doozy. This gets people really confused. They think about maybe a rainbow and the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 colors of rainbow, or red, orange, yellow, etc. The reality is there's three diagnostic criteria for autism. You have to meet all three to meet the diagnostic criteria, and that's why this is a spectrum of symptoms. Okay, there's also a spectrum of severity. People like to say you're on the spectrum. That doesn't make any sense. We say this because we think about red is on the spectrum. But if you just have one of these symptoms, you don't have autism spectrum disorder. The spectrum is a similar word to syndrome, which is a number of different symptoms. It's a misnomer, and I think people like to, especially parents, like the idea of having a saying on the spectrum, because it mollifies a bit the nature of the illness. And this is no doubt about it, an illness. And it's not something you want. It's not something you want to be proud of. There's a lot of people that suffer from this illness. They want treatment. It's a severe thing. It's a serious thing. So it's pretty sad to hear people get it so wrong. So what are the three symptoms of autism? You have to have all three, okay? The first is social interaction. Okay, so what does that mean? I'm just going to write social. When it comes to social understanding and friendship and stuff like that, it's very hard to form bonds and things like understanding context. Now, there are people that do this. This is kind of the hardest symptom of all these to understand. And I think there are people that don't necessarily understand social cues and things like that. But, in a lot of ways, these people are loners, fairly antisocial, really difficult understanding social cues. This is the most mysterious symptom. So I could understand people not really getting this. But I think, understanding those social cues is, difficult, and making friendships, making relationships is kind of very challenging for people with autism. Intimacy is extremely challenging, for example. So that's kind of the most sort of difficult symptom to understand. We'll just get it out of the way first, and we'll get back to it in a second to analyze it further. But the 2 and 3 are pretty unambiguous. So the second is communication. And it's almost impossible for people with autism to communicate clearly. In fact, many, many people with autism are completely mute. And most people with autism can't speak like the way I'm speaking, like a motor mouth. So anybody with severe communication deficits could be a candidate for autism, provided the other two apply. So again, people with complete lack of social understanding, like a serious impairment of an ability to make bonds and friendships, complete understanding of the so-called 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 test. If you want to do this test, it's called the reading of the mind of the eyes test. And 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 is an interesting test where you have to look at these eyes and decide which emotion is this. Okay, what do you think? Is this person apologetic, friendly, uneasy, or dispirited? This is tough. This is hard, right? This eyebrow kind of makes me feel one way, that maybe they're uneasy, but I also can see friendly. This one's tricky. Do you guys think it's easy? Who says it's really easy? Show me who thinks it's really easy. Tell me who says it's the easiest thing. Yeah, this one's preoccupied. So anyway, someone with autism gets all of these wrong. They have no clue. They get random score, 25%. So this is sort of the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 test. So let's get back to communication. So people who are mute, I'm not going to pantomime the way an autistic person speaks sometimes, but I think you've probably heard it before. It's not always clear communication. There's sort of just a difficulty with language and words. And, if you can talk like me, just blab on about something, you don't have autism. Period. The end. You're done. All three are gone. This is a spectrum of symptoms that you have to be on, all three. Otherwise, you're not fitting the disease. You can be antisocial, right? You could have tons of diseases have this problem. It does not have to do necessarily with autism. You have to have all three. You cannot be a blabbermouth or a great public speaker and have autism because you're missing this canonical part of the spectrum. That's like saying, well, I've got the red and I've got the green, so I'm the rainbow. Well, no, you need the yellow, you need the orange, you need the blue. All right, the third one is like pathognomonic. It's a great word if you don't know it. It's also pronounced pathognomonic, like underpants gnome. So pathognomonic means like it is exactly diagnostic for this disease. Now, there's nothing pathognomonic for this disease. That's the whole point of this video, other than all three of these, right? But the third one is repetitive behaviors or stereotyped behaviors. And the most pathognomonic one of these, so to speak, is hand flapping. So if you've ever seen hand flapping, which kind of looks like this, that's fairly clear. If you ever watch Rain Man and you see the repetitive, sort of speaking, if I was sitting here saying cassava, 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 cassava is a short. That's the type of thing you would expect from an autistic patient, someone who's on the autism spectrum routine. So again, repetitive routines, something like somebody cleaning their hands 25 times in a row. But again, that's an OCD type behavior too. So you need to match all of these. So you could be OCD, you could have anxiety, and you will have some of these repetitive behaviors. Restricted interests. People with autism really like trains often. They play with trains. You have to have all three. It's really important. You can't just be a normal person and say, well, sometimes I do this, sometimes I do that. It's pretty deep, and pretty important. The interesting thing about the average IQ of autism patients, it's also important here, is roughly 85. Maybe 90, 85 to 90. So people with autism, they have serious intellectual disability. They cannot do the things that you and I can do. It's also important to understand that people with autism have very high unemployment. They have very difficult time, getting employed. So, and now again, the average IQ is 100. Some of us in this chat are a little higher. And so another really big factor is we know unemployment rates 4%. Does anybody know if that's U1 or U0, U3, U2? But let's say the unemployment rate's 4%. What's the unemployment rate for autism? 76% one study, 90% another study. So if you have a job, you can basically probably can't get diagnosed here. So certainly if you have a high achieving job, this is what autism is all about. When you misgender me, I get really mad. When you misdiagnose me, I get even more mad. So stop doing those things. And I hope you learned something today. Yeah, there's people who are autistic that haven't spoken a word for like 3 years. It sounds crazy, I know, but that's autism. Asperger's was removed from the DSM. It's been replaced with high functioning autism, which is just this cop out of like, okay, everything I just drew except make it broader by taking some things away. I think human nature is we want to categorize stuff. Like that is a huge part of human nature. You see me do it all day. And, the word neuroatypical comes up. And I think we give names to things we don't understand. No, I don't think Baron is autist. I think a lot of kids being brought up today, younger people, they're different. They're a little different. They're not, every generation's a little different. Yeah, I've studied the causes and potential treatments for autism pretty thoroughly. I licensed synthetic oxytocin, intranasal oxytocin from Novartis. It was not a great license, to be honest. Kind of didn't work great. I don't think vaccines, Well, I'll say this. We don't know necessarily why autism happens, one. Two, we have a big problem with one theory and thesis, which is very promising, which is that autism is caused by immunological deviations during development. And I think that is a very reasonable hypothesis that where there's a lot of data. So while vaccines themselves are very unlikely to quote unquote cause autism directly, the immunological hypothesis is very reasonable. And there's some fascinating stuff that's been published about mother-child immunity and things like that. Now, one of the interesting things about immunity, pre-development at least, or pre-parturition, technically, pre-birth, is you have a very weird graft versus host problem. And pregnancy is, there's a bunch of signals that the body sends to lower immunity during pregnancy. This is why women with MS experience complete remission during pregnancy. It's bizarre. So the immune hypothesis is pretty reasonable. The aging of the mother, aging of the father thesis is also, yeah, I think it's just mostly, it's a mix of the widening, you deleted our API. What are you talking about?